Make-A-Wish employees. What was the most strangest thing a Make-A-Wish kid asked for and actually received? I shot an internal promotional video for Make-A-Wish once. I got to read through a big book of wishes they had granted. Some of them were so extravagant and amazing. Family vacations, celebrity meetings, and then I saw a 3-year-old who wished for a banana split for breakfast, and that's what they gave him. No one was like, "Hail, wish higher." I helped host a visit to a planetarium by a kid whose wish was to go to the moon. The front office folks thought I could just give her a personal tour of the planetarium and show her some nice high-resolution visuals, but I thought she deserved better than that. I commissioned a jeweler friend and meteorite enthusiast to make a silver crescent moon necklace, which he graciously donated to the cause, and I donated a small lunar meteorite from my own collection. It was a gorgeous necklace, very much to the credit of my friend's artistry and generosity. We couldn't take her to the moon, so we gave it to her instead. She was thrilled, but later said her real highlight of the trip was the astronaut ice cream. Kids. I worked at a hospice and we had a wishing program. One of our patients, 24-year-old with brain cancer, wanted to hold a sloth. Apparently, sloths are very nervous creatures, so it's a little tricky to actually hold one. I found a local company that does visits to schools and whatnot who had a sloth. Sloths only poop about once a week, and the sloth could only travel the day after he pooped, because they get nervous any longer than that, and the sloth has stress diarrhea. So basically, we had to wait until the sloth pooped and then set up the visit for the next day. The sloth pooped on Thanksgiving, so we set up the visit for the next morning. The patient was able to hold and pet a very sweet sloth. The patient died about 3 weeks later, and I am very happy I was able to help give her some joy in her final weeks. Edit. Wow, guys, I did not expect this to blow up. Thank you so much for the awards. The hospice I worked at had a special program called Faithful Wishes for any of our patients, regardless of age. As the volunteer coordinator, fulfilling these wishes was part of my job. I do believe there are other non-profit organizations that grant wishes to adults, but nothing as large as Make-A-Wish. Yes, the sloth was tame and lived in an animal preserve. He would also visit schools and retirement communities, schedule permitting. And yes, I absolutely learned more about sloth bowel movements than I ever wanted to. Dang, that's awesome. I wonder if there is one here for adults. I'm not dead yet, too healthy to even get a handicap card, but mine is a bitch, and I'd like to pet a tiger or a lion, or any big cat once, but not the drugged ones, like one that's asleep for a tooth cleaning or something. I guess as close as I've got was getting to look at big cat bones and touch them for school, working on a dead monkey, and seeing a frozen gorilla. That was pretty dope. Gorillas are bigger up close than far away at the zoo. Not Make-A-Wish, but my brother got terminal brain cancer when he was 18. He was given 3 to 6 months to live. Back then his only wish was to be an NFL player, but he was 5'8", all heart. He was just like Rudy in that Notre Dame football movie. He fought it for 6 years. Somewhere around his 22nd birthday he and I were talking about having something worth living for. I told him it didn't matter what it was, but a vision for the future that he would fight for was important, and encouraged him to find something to give his life to. We went on a vacation soon after that, and because we were broke from medical bills and 4 years of battling cancer as a family, this was a huge deal. We hadn't had a family vacation for a long time. A family friend put us up in their beach house and gave us some money to have a good time there. My brother came alive on the trip. It was so impactful to him that he came home and decided to start a non-profit organization. He called it The Week Away. It was very similar to Make-A-Wish. Terminally sick patients apply and benefit from an all-expenses-paid vacation with their family or group of caregivers. That was a big deal to him to include the family because, if you've ever gone through something like that, you know it's not just the patient who suffers and loses their freedom, it's everyone they are close to. He worked his ass off to start the organization. He formed it and began sending families to places like the Outer Banks and Ocean City and other East Coast beaches. A week before he died, he launched his first big month-long fundraiser. He passed away knowing that he had raised enough to send like 10 families on respite weeks. It was like he was passing the baton off to others who could keep on fighting. The org is still going strong today. If anyone is blessed to have their health and a sweet vacation spot you'd like to donate for occasional use by sick people, all coordinated by an awesome organization, I'd encourage you to reach out to the A Week Away folks. You get to play a part in people's lives like the awesome people helping in these Make-A-Wish stories. I worked at a Lego retail store in the 2000s and Make-A-Wish approached us for a child with terminal osteosarcoma who wanted to be in the store for a day. Lego unfortunately denied the request, which surprised myself and the rest of the staff because Lego was a pretty great company. Staff decided to honor the request ourselves. We closed the store early on a Sunday, then invited the kid and family in. He had a full run of the store. We collectively paid for like $1,000 worth of toys for him to take home, and just spent the entire evening building what he wanted. He died a few months later. In Wizard 101 there's a quest with an NPC named Brandon, named after a Make-A-Wish kid who played the game, and his request was to design a side quest for the game. You meet Brandon and go help him clear out this dungeon with 2 really fucking hard bosses. Was a lot of fun. At the end you get a gem you can sack it that lets you summon Brandon into battle as a follower. Pretty cool. Not sure what ended up happening to Brandon, but it's really cool that thousands of PPL have gotten to enjoy being a part of his wish tbh. I was approached by a similar organization who wanted to arrange a day for a kid to shadow a veterinarian. I'm just a small animal veterinarian with a small hospital, so I found it odd that I'd be approached. I said yes, who TF would say no? And we picked a day and had our regular patients in the hospital and the kid got to watch us do our thing for a day. We gave him a lab coat and a stethoscope and let him tag along and see x-rays and ultrasounds and watch surgeries. I brought my dog in so he could try the ultrasound on her. He seemed to enjoy it. It wasn't a terribly strange request really. It just seems like my day-to-day isn't something anyone would consider their dream experience. I had a wish to go to England where they were filming Harry Potter number 4. That's it. Just to go to where they were filming. Got a first-class trip on British Airways. Stayed in London for a week. Did a full day at the studios where I got to eat lunch in the canteen with all the actors and extras. Sat next to James and Oliver Phelps. Met Alan Rickman who almost dropped his tray to say hi to me. Watched the scene after Harry's name gets pulled from the Goblet of Fire get filmed and got a headset to watch it like the director was. Had a 5-10 minute chat with Dan Radcliffe complete with a hug. 13-year-old me thought I might just die right there. Got one of his used gym shirts which I still wear, and my own robe fitted for me by Wardrobe. Overall it was a really amazing wish. Edit because I'm getting this question a lot and it's a really common misconception that I'd love to clear up since I think this is actually really important for people to know. It's actually a myth that Make-A-Wish is only for the terminally ill. It's actually for any child who is critically ill. The way it was explained to me a long time ago was that it was for kids who have a lot of weight on their shoulders due to a medical condition to get a chance to get away from that for a little while. I had a coworker at my student job in college who had leukemia as a child. He wished to be in the Iditarod, so they flew his family to Alaska and he got to meet all the dogs and ride in a sled for a leg of the race. If I remember correctly, he also got a husky puppy. He was 20 when I met him. I was a couple of years older and graduated college and never saw him again. The leukemia came back and he died in 2016. I don't think he was much older than 25. One of the nicest guys I've ever met. I hope heaven is real just for you, Ben. I was a chef at a fancy steakhouse in Jacksonville, Florida. One day my proprietor came to me and said, "This is Stacy, the new girl, she'll be training with you." I look over and it's this adorable little girl in bright pink chef coat. I babysat my little cousins at the time, so I was actually pretty used to entertaining 10-year-old girls at the time, so I showed her the ropes. We made all kinds of stuff that were on the surface kind of random: candied bacon, cornbread, prosciutto wrapped bliss and cheese stuffed asparagus, a sweet tea burnt pork chop, a sorrel garnish salad type thing and some other cool garnishes. We were having fun. I then made a puree out of the cornbread, let her plate up the dish a few different ways to show how you can play with ingredients and height to showcase different parts of the dish. She had a blast. It was only at the end when the father came up to me in tears that I realized what was going on. In the moment I was a little upset because nobody told me, but I realized after it was for the best. I probably would not have been as bright and vibrant with the lessons had I have known, but it was a fulfilling experience for sure. I hope their family is doing well. Side note, I have reworked and reran the dish as a special a few times in memory of that day. It was that impactful. After I survived cancer at 17, I was offered a wish. I went to Christmas Island with my family to see the spawning of the red crabs, reckoned to be one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. Picture it, a million fist-sized red land crabs making their way down to the sea edge to release their eggs into the ocean over a period of just 3 hours or so. The Make-A-Wish volunteers looked horrified as I explained it, and am typing this now. So yes, I lived. Thanks, Ed. Come to think of it, I'm pretty sure my wish caught my family a bit off guard too. I had cancer when I was very young and I was able to get to Make-A-Wish without hesitation. I said I wished I could eat Butterfingers with Milan. It was my favorite candy and my favorite Disney character at the time, so it made sense to me. But they didn't really know what to do, so they just sent me off to Disney World. Lol. Every time I go to Disney, I always bring Butterfingers with me and I always try to find Milan in hopes my wish can come true. Maybe one day. I'm a mall volunteer. The volunteers get to do all the fun stuff, like meet with the families, get the kids excited about their wish, we send little gifts and stuff along the way, and then be there when the wish is granted. We don't have to do any of the boring admin stuff. I have a little girl right now whose original wish was a unicorn. 6 years/old with severe epilepsy, has like 15 seizures a day and has been through like 10 surgeries already. She wasn't having any of that fake stuff, like a stuffed animal or a costume. She insisted for weeks on a unicorn. That one was hard to manage. She's getting a cat. I did a medical sustainment course at Fort Drum in February a few years ago. This one particular day was medevac training. Our certification for loading patients into the Black Hawk coincided with the Black Hawk flight crew's training to receive patients. We would wait for it to land and get guidance from the crew chief, carry the patient, lifelike dummy strapped on the litter, up, and essentially move away. It was honestly a bit boring. Needless to say, it was freezing cold with feet of snow and ice on the ground. Standing there with the wind whipping at us from the blades of the helicopter was not very fun. We were all miserable. And in between iterations, we were just talking about things that would make us happier. I happened to mention that I've always wanted to fly in a helicopter. I guess the right person overheard, and the course instructor grabbed me and told me to limp up to the Black Hawk when it landed next. He told the flight crew that there's a Frago and I'm a walking wounded who needed evac. It took me 5 years and 27 days of being in the military before I finally got to do one of the cool things my recruiter told me I would do. The ride lasted only about 3 minutes, but I've never in my life had the biggest and cheesiest smile on my face like I did during that flight. I understand that, kid. I was a Make-A-Wish kid back in 2017 and my wish was to go see a live brain surgery in Seattle at University of Washington. I loved Grey's Anatomy, I loved Dr. Shepard, and I had brain cancer, so I wanted to see what my doctors kind of saw. What an experience, and learn so much. I was a little neurosurgeon for a day, and the neurosurgeon was playing the Pixies while operating. What a great happy moment. I won't forget. They even sent my family from Arizona to Seattle with me, to have dinner with me in the Space Needle. Former employee here. Over half of the wishes are Disney related, and beyond that they typically fall into a few categories. I wish to travel. I wish to meet. I wish to be. I wish to have. I wish to give. You get the idea. So, I always liked wishes that fell outside of the typical wish categories. One time, there was a boy that wished for the perfect baked potato. I don't know if the wish granters went through with that wish, They may have waited until he was a little older, but I still laugh when I think about it. Volunteers are trained to ensure they are determining the child's one true wish, not mom's wish to go on a cruise, or dad's wish for new tools, etc. A lot of work and thought goes into fulfilling a child's wish. I worked on Haunted Mansion at Disney World and we'd see Make-A-Wish kids all the time, try to go out of our way to be nice and spooky for them. Then one kid's wish was to be a butler in the Haunted Mansion and they stuck him with me for 2 hours. We had a mini butler and made costume for stuff like that, so I dressed him up and we tried to scare the shit out of people for a few hours and then I showed him the inside of the ride. We both had a great time, but they left me alone with this dying kid with no chaperone, which was kind of weird. Glad to see that I am not the only one with this weird request. I was also eligible for Make-A-Wish when I started high school and I asked to visit DICE at their HQ in Stockholm. I didn't ask to be in any of their games though. Damn it, why didn't I think of that? I was passionate about game development, and I still am, and thus wanted to see what it's like to work in a AAA studio, and also ask about a bunch of game dev stuff. They constantly asked me, "Are you sure you wouldn't rather want to go to Disneyland?" I said, "This is my Disneyland." Guess they thought it was a weird request for a 15-year-old kid to make. This year one finished my bachelor's degree in computer science and in the future I can hopefully land a job in game dev. Edit. I see many people here congratulating me for surviving. I forgot to disclose that the condition I have is not nearly as deadly as, for example, cancer. I have had a heart condition that has been treated through surgeries since birth. This condition will never go away and can cause death even after treatment, but my doctor monitors my condition every year and so far it's looking excellent. Just wanted to address this. Also, I currently have to go soon, so I'll probably answer some of your comments later today, or maybe tomorrow. I had a wish when I was 8 due to having leukemia and a bone marrow transplant. My first thought was meet Bruce Willis. Die Hard was my newly discovered favorite film, but my dad asked if I wanted something that would last like a computer. I always loved playing on the hospital computers, so yeah, I went for that. Best decision ever. I might owe my career to it. I hear Bruce Willis is a bit of a tit-riddle anyway. Edit. I think this was after the BMT, so I was past the worst of it. So I was most likely going to be around to enjoy the thing that will last. Edit 2. In case Bruce Willis reads this, I'm still a massive fan, even after Die Hard 5. I'm a wish granter. My strangest personal wish was a refurbished Teddy's camper so that she could have her own space. She couldn't go out in public while her transplant was newished, and she was going crazy in the house with 2 younger siblings. It was actually pretty cool. Although the strange part was that Ma can't actually use used things like that, so we had to get her a new VW camper, or something like that. It's been a while, and artfully make it look vintage. So strange. Anyways, please feel free to apply to be a Make-A-Wish volunteer. It's such a rewarding experience, and even if you don't feel like you can work with the kids, there's also other volunteer positions like fundraising, event planning, and more. I was a Make-A-Wish child in my province. I've had brain cancer since 12 and still have it today. My wish initially going to meet the cast from Hawaii 5-0 at Hawaii, but then I ended up also wanting to get this Mercedes pre-built gaming PC. When I told them I wanted that, they said, "You sure?" Then I don't remember what happened, but it wasn't until I was 16 when I got my wish for a VR gaming setup, and I built my PC at Canada Computers right before the pandemic and the GPU shortage. Feels good, and as of now, my treatment is stable and I have only gone through radiotherapy 2 times. Only thing is, there isn't much space in my room, so having the base requirements for a VR play area is kinda sad. Hopefully I can get the bigger area though, because I like playing in VR since it's nice. I didn't use my wish for 18 years because I have sickle cell anemia and that condition doesn't have a cure. I never knew what I wanted to do, I always knew it was a lot of power cause I was a really self-aware kid. I ended up giving a few Nintendo Switches to the hematology ward in the hospital I spent so much time in. I never told anyone in real life about this cause I think it's a pretty weird and personal wish. Edit. Oh my god. 1,600 likes and so many awards. I never thought anything I'd post on Reddit would even get 200 upvotes. I am really antisocial probably because of my upbringing. And, as mentioned, I've never told anyone in real life this, so all the kind words really mean the fucking world to me. Like I'm so overwhelmed. Thank you all so much for the support, and I'm doing pretty well in life these days. Thanks so much again.